The year was 2147, and humanity had finally spread beyond Earth. Colonies existed on Mars. Research stations floated near Jupiter. Mining operations pulled precious metals from asteroids. After centuries of war and suffering, humans had learned to work together. The world was not perfect, but it was peaceful. Jake Turner stood at the observation window of the Lunar Command Base. He was 42 years old, with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. As commander of Earth's United Defense Fleet, he spent most days dealing with small problems. Pirates stealing cargo. Disputes between colonies. Boring work, but important. Today would be different. The alarm sounded at exactly 0600 hours. Jake ran to the command center, where dozens of officers stared at their screens with pale faces. On the main display, he saw something that made his heart stop. Ships. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of ships. They poured out of some kind of hole in space, like water through a broken dam. Each ship was massive, dark, and covered in strange symbols. They moved in perfect formation toward Earth. "What am I looking at?" Jake asked. Lisa Park, his intelligence officer, answered without looking up from her console. She was young, only 28, but she was the smartest person Jake had ever met. "Unknown vessels, sir. They came through some kind of portal near Saturn. Current count is over 3,000 ships, and more keep coming." Jake felt cold. Earth's entire fleet numbered only 400 vessels. They were outmatched badly. The communication system crackled. A voice spoke in perfect English, though it sounded wrong somehow, like a machine pretending to be alive. "People of Earth, I am High Commander Vorak of the Dominion. We have conquered 200 worlds across this galaxy. Your planet is now claimed by the Dominion. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities, enslave your people, and take your world by force. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The message ended. Silence filled the command center. Jake turned to his officers. "Get me Admiral Hayes, and find Dr. Emma Cole. We need to talk." 3 hours later, a small shuttle approached the alien flagship. Inside sat Dr. Emma Cole, Earth's leading expert on alien biology and the closest thing humanity had to a diplomat for this situation. She was 50 years old, with short gray hair and calm brown eyes. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment, hoping it would never come. The alien ship pulled her shuttle inside. Emma stepped out and found herself in a corridor made of black metal. Strange lights pulsed in the walls. The air smelled wrong, like copper and something rotten. 2 alien soldiers waited for her. They were tall, almost 3 meters, with 4 arms and faces that looked like insects mixed with reptiles. They wore armor that seemed to grow from their skin. They said nothing, just pointed down the corridor. Emma walked for what felt like hours. Finally, she reached a massive chamber. Hundreds of aliens stood in rows, watching her. At the far end, on a throne made of bones, sat the largest alien she had ever seen. High Commander Vorak looked down at her like she was a bug. His eyes were completely black, reflecting the dim light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber. "So, the humans send one small female to speak for their entire species. This is either brave or stupid." Emma did not flinch. She had prepared for this moment her entire life. "We came in peace, Commander. We wish to understand your intentions." Vorak laughed. The sound was horrible, like rocks grinding together. "Our intentions are simple. We take what we want. We have done this for 3,000 years. No species has ever stopped us. Your little planet will be no different." An older alien stepped forward. She was smaller than Vorak, with silver markings on her face. Emma recognized her from intelligence reports. This was Thera, an elder of the Dominion Council. She studied Emma with curious eyes. "You do not seem afraid," Thera said. "Why?" Emma reached into her bag and pulled out a small device. The soldiers around her raised their weapons, but she moved slowly, showing she meant no harm. She placed the device on the ground, and a holographic display appeared in the air. Images floated before the aliens. Mushroom clouds rising over cities. Mass graves filled with bodies. Soldiers charging into machine gun fire. Gas chambers. Atomic bombs. Burning villages. Torture. Genocide. "What is this?" Vorak demanded. "This is us," Emma said quietly. "This is humanity. This is what we do to each other." She pressed another button. More images appeared. The trenches of World War I, filled with poison gas. The ruins of Hiroshima. The killing fields of Cambodia. The nuclear standoffs of the Cold War, where humanity came minutes away from destroying itself. "We have spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing," Emma continued. "Every weapon you see, we invented to destroy ourselves. Nuclear weapons. Biological weapons. Chemical weapons. We created them all. We used them all. On each other." The chamber was silent. Even Vorak seemed uncertain. "And yet," Emma said, "we are still here. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars that burned entire continents. We crawled out of the darkness through pure will. Because that is what humans do. We refuse to die." She looked directly at Vorak. "You have conquered 200 worlds. Those species probably surrendered quickly. They probably begged for mercy. They probably could not imagine fighting against impossible odds." Emma smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "We are not like them. We have been fighting impossible odds since we climbed down from the trees. We have been at war with ourselves, with nature, with death itself, for our entire existence. And we always win." Thera leaned forward. "You are warning us." "Yes," Emma said simply. "I am telling you what you face. If you invade Earth, every human will fight. Men, women, children, the old, the sick. They will fight with guns. They will fight with knives. They will fight with rocks and bare hands. They will never surrender. They will never stop. You will win battles, but you will lose soldiers in every street, every building, every room. And in the end, if we cannot beat you, we will destroy our own planet before we let you have it." Vorak stood from his throne. He towered over Emma like a mountain. "You think this scares me? We have crushed armies. We have burned worlds." Emma nodded. "Then you have nothing to worry about. In 72 hours, you will learn whether I spoke the truth." She turned to leave. At the door, she stopped and looked back. "We warned you." She walked out of the chamber. Behind her, Thera watched her go with something new in her ancient eyes. Fear. 72 hours passed like a held breath. Earth did not surrender. High Commander Vorak gave the order at exactly midnight. 3,000 Dominion warships moved toward Earth like a dark cloud. Their weapons powered up, glowing with deadly energy. Vorak sat on his throne and smiled. He had done this many times before. He expected this battle to last a few hours at most. He was wrong. Jake Turner watched the enemy fleet approach on his tactical display. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast. Earth's fleet of 400 ships waited in orbit, forming a defensive line around the planet. They were smaller than the Dominion ships, weaker, slower, but they were crewed by humans. "All ships, this is Commander Turner," Jake said into his communicator. "We are outmatched. We are outnumbered. But this is our home. This is where our children sleep. This is where our parents grew old, and we will not let them take it. Not today. Not ever." He paused and took a deep breath. "Make them pay for every inch of space. Make them remember Earth. All ships, engage." The battle began with fire and thunder. Captain Mike Reyes led Shadow Squadron into the first wave of enemy fighters. Mike was 35 years old, with dark skin and a quick smile. He had been flying since he was 16. People called him crazy. He called himself creative. His squadron of 50 fighters dove straight into a formation of 300 Dominion attackers. The aliens flew in perfect patterns, following the orders of their central computer. They expected Mike's pilots to do the same. Instead, Mike did something the aliens could not understand. He flew directly at the largest enemy ship, weapons blazing, showing no intention of turning away. His pilots followed him, screaming war cries into their radios. The Dominion pilots hesitated. Their tactical programs had no response for this. Why would anyone fly towards certain death? By the time they figured out how to react, Mike's squadron had torn through their formation, destroying dozens of ships. "That's how we do it on Earth," Mike shouted as he pulled his fighter into a tight spin and fired at another target dot in the command ship. Morak watched the battle with growing confusion. His tactical officer, Krell, stood beside him with a worried expression. "Commander, their attack patterns make no sense," Krell said. "They do not follow standard military logic. Our predictive systems cannot calculate their movements." "Then override the systems and use direct command," Morak ordered. "I am trying, Commander. But their behavior is too chaotic. They fight like they do not care about survival." Vorak stared at the display. One human fighter had run out of ammunition. Instead of retreating, the pilot turned his ship directly into a Dominion carrier and detonated his reactor. The explosion destroyed the carrier and 6 ships around it. "Madness," Vorak whispered. "This is madness." But madness was winning far below, on the surface of Earth. The invasion faced even bigger problems. Dominion troops landed in major cities across the planet. They expected civilians to run away screaming. They expected surrender within hours. What they found was different. In New York, an army of Dominion soldiers marched down a main street. From every window, every rooftop, every doorway, humans opened fire. Old men with hunting rifles. Young women with handguns. Teenagers throwing homemade explosives. The aliens had better armor and better weapons, but they could not fight enemies that appeared from everywhere. One Dominion sergeant reported back to his commanders, "We have taken 5 blocks. We have lost 200 soldiers. There are no military forces here. These are civilians, farmers, teachers, children, and they all fight." In London, a Dominion squad broke into what they thought was an empty building. Inside, they found 20 elderly humans sitting around a table, drinking tea. The humans smiled at them. Then the building exploded. In Tokyo, Dominion soldiers learned not to enter the subway tunnels. Those who did never came back. In Cairo, Mumbai, Sydney, Toronto, and 100 other cities, the story was the same. Every street was a battlefield. Every building was a fortress. Every human was a soldier. Lisa Park coordinated the resistance from a bunker deep beneath the ground. Her fingers flew across her keyboard as she hacked into Dominion communication systems. She planted false orders. She spread wrong information. She made the enemy think attacks were coming from places where no attacks existed. "Enemy forces are moving to Sector 7, she reported to Jake. "They think we have 1,000 troops there. We actually have 50. But by the time they figure it out, our real forces will hit them from behind." Jake smiled grimly. "Good work, Lisa. Keep them confused." "Always, sir." On the lunar base, Admiral Tom Hayes watched the battle unfold. He was 70 years old, a veteran of wars that younger people had only read about. He had trained Jake. He had built this defense force. And he had planned for this day. "Activate Ghost Protocol," he ordered. Across Earth, hidden weapons came online. Bunkers that had been built in secret decades ago opened their doors. Soldiers who had been living normal lives received signals and picked up their guns. Supply caches that no enemy knew about revealed their contents. Humanity had been preparing for alien invasion since the 1950s. Every conspiracy theory about secret military bases was true. Every rumor about hidden weapons was real. The aliens had no idea what they were walking into. By the end of the first day, the Dominion had landed 50,000 troops on Earth. They controlled several major cities. Their commanders reported success, but they had lost 3,000 soldiers. Their supply lines were under constant attack. Their communications were filled with confusion. And human resistance was growing stronger, not weaker. Varrock received the reports with a cold feeling in his stomach. He had conquered 80 worlds personally. He knew what victory looked like. This did not look like victory. "Increase the bombardment," he ordered. "Destroy their cities from orbit?" Krell shook his head. "Commander, our troops are in those cities. We would kill our own soldiers." Varrock slammed his fist against his throne. "Then send more troops. Flood their streets. Crush them with numbers. We have sent all available ground forces, Commander. They are all engaged. And they are all taking heavy losses." Thera appeared on the communication screen. Her expression was grave. "Aye, Commander. The Council has seen the battle reports. We have never lost this many soldiers in the first day of any invasion. What is happening?" Varrock could not answer. He turned back to the main display and watched as another one of his carriers exploded. On the surface, the battle continued without pause. Somewhere in the chaos, a human voice crackled across all frequencies. It was Emma Cole, broadcasting from a hidden location. "People of Earth," she said, "the aliens expected us to surrender. They expected us to give up. They do not know us. They do not know what we have survived. Show them. Show them what happens when you threaten our home. Show them why humanity still exists." The response came from every corner of the planet. Guns fired. Bombs exploded. Soldiers advanced. Civilians fought. The Dominion had expected to conquer Earth in one day. 1 week later, they were still fighting for their first real victory, and the humans were only getting started. 3 weeks had passed since the invasion began. The Dominion controlled most major cities on Earth. Their flag flew over buildings in New York, London, Beijing, and dozens of other places. By their standards, they were winning. By human standards, they were bleeding to death. Admiral Tom Hayes stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dozens of screens surrounded him, showing battles across the globe. He had not slept in 4 days. His body was exhausted, but his mind was sharp as ever. "Report," he said. A young officer stepped forward. "Sir, enemy casualties have reached 60,000. They control the surface of major cities, but they cannot hold any building for more than a few hours. Underground resistance continues in all occupied zones. Supply raids have cut their ammunition by 40%. Hayes nodded slowly. "And our losses?" The officer hesitated. "Approximately 90,000 military personnel. Unknown number of civilians." The numbers were terrible, but Hayes had expected worse. Much worse. The Dominion had the power to destroy Earth from orbit. The fact that they had not done so meant they wanted to capture the planet intact. That gave humanity a chance. "What about the special project?" Hayes asked. "Dr. Cole reports success, sir. She has completed her analysis of captured Dominion technology." Hayes allowed himself a small smile. Good. Get me Commander Turner and Captain Reyes. We have work to do. In a hidden laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps, Emma Cole studied a piece of alien equipment. It was a communication device taken from a dead Dominion soldier. For 3 weeks, she had worked day and night to understand how it worked. Now she finally had answers. Their entire army operates on a central command system. She explained to Jake and Mike through a secure video link. Every soldier receives orders directly from the flagship. Without those orders, they cannot function properly. They become confused, slow, and unable to make decisions. Jake leaned forward. You are saying they cannot think for themselves? Not exactly. They can think, but they have been trained to follow commands. Independent thinking is discouraged in their culture. Their strength is perfect coordination. But that same strength is their weakness. Mike laughed. So, if we cut off the head, the body dies. Emma nodded. More or less. If we can disable or capture the flagship, their ground forces will fall apart. Jake considered this carefully. The Dominion flagship was massive, heavily armored, and protected by hundreds of escort ships. Getting close to it seemed impossible. But impossible was just another word humans did not believe in. What about their individual soldiers? Jake asked. How do we fight them on the ground? Emma pulled up another display. Their armor is strong against energy weapons, but weak against physical impacts. Bullets work better than lasers. Also, their biology is sensitive to certain frequencies of sound. High-pitched noise causes them pain and disorientation. Mike grinned. So we shoot them with regular guns and blast loud music at them. I like this plan. Lisa Park joined the conversation from her bunker. I have been tracking Dominion supply routes. They have a major depot about 200 kilometers north of Paris. If we destroy it, we cut off supplies to half their forces in Europe. Hayes spoke up. Do it. Captain Reyes, take your squadron. Commander Turner, prepare a ground team to support the attack. Mike saluted through the screen. Yes, sir. Time to show these aliens how we party. The attack on the supply depot became legendary. Mike led Shadow Squadron through enemy airspace at night. They flew low, below radar detection, weaving through mountains and valleys. Behind them, 40 transports carried 2,000 ground soldiers. The Dominion detected them only when they were 5 kilometers from the target. By then, it was too late. Mike's fighters dove at the depot from all directions, firing missiles and dropping bombs. The aliens scrambled to respond, but their defense was disorganized. Shadow Squadron had spent weeks learning their patterns. Every human pilot knew exactly where the enemy would be before they arrived. On the ground, human soldiers moved like ghosts. They attacked supply trucks and ammunition stores with explosives. They set fires that spread through the entire facility. When Dominion reinforcements arrived, they found only burning ruins and empty vehicles. 1. Dominion commander reported back to Vorik. We have lost the northern supply depot. Enemy forces escaped before we could engage. We have no prisoners. We have no bodies. It is like fighting smoke. Vorak crushed the communication device in his hand. His rage was terrible to witness. How? How do they continue to fight? We have destroyed their military bases. We have killed their soldiers. We have occupied their cities. Why do they not surrender? Thera answered calmly. Because they do not know how. Surrender is not part of their nature. I have studied their history, Vorik. They have faced extinction many times. They have never given up. Not once. Then we will force them to give up. I will destroy their cities from orbit. Thera shook her head. The Council will not allow it. Earth has resources we need. Destroying the surface would make our conquest meaningless. You must win this war on the ground. Vorik glared at her. Then give me more soldiers. We have sent all available forces. You have 100,000 troops on the surface. You have 3,000 ships in orbit. If you cannot win with these numbers, more soldiers will not help." The High Commander sat in silence for a long moment. His mind was racing. He had conquered 80 worlds. He had never failed. But this planet, this small blue world with its primitive species, was different. These humans did not fight like any enemy he had faced. They adapted. They learned. They changed their tactics every day. When he blocked one method of attack, they invented another. When he destroyed one resistance group, 2 more appeared. They were like water, flowing around every obstacle. Finding every crack in his defenses. In her bunker, Lisa Park smiled at her screams. She had just finished planting a new piece of false intelligence in the Dominion communication network. The aliens would now believe that Earth had a massive underground army preparing to attack from the south. They would move forces to defend against an attack that would never come. While they moved south, the real attack would come from the north. "Commander Turner," Lisa said, "I have found something interesting. The Dominion flagship has a maintenance schedule. Every 7 days, they reduce power to their main shields for 2 hours while their systems reset. The next window is in 4 days." Jake looked at the data she sent him. His heart began to beat faster. "You are saying there will be a moment when their defenses are weak." "Very weak, sir." "Weak enough for a small team to get through." "A small team to do what?" Lisa paused. "To board the ship, sir. To capture High Commander Varg." The idea was insane. The flagship was enormous, crewed by thousands of soldiers. Any boarding party would face overwhelming odds. The chances of survival were close to 0. Jake thought about his wife, who had died in the first attack. He thought about his daughter, hiding in a shelter somewhere, waiting for the war to end. He thought about everyone who had already sacrificed their lives for this planet. "Start planning the mission," he said. "I will lead it personally." Mike Reyes volunteered immediately. So did 500 other soldiers. They all knew the risks. None of them cared. Humanity was done waiting. It was time to take the fight to the enemy. The assault shuttle shook violently as it approached the Dominion flagship. Inside, 500 human soldiers sat in silence. Their faces were painted black. Their weapons were loaded. They all knew that most of them would not survive the next few hours. Jake Turner stood at the front of the lead shuttle. He checked his rifle one more time, then looked at his soldiers. These were the best warriors Earth had produced. Veterans of the 3-week war. Survivors of battles that should have killed them. Each one had volunteered for this mission knowing the odds. "Remember the plan," Jake said through his helmet radio. "We breach the hull, fight our way to the command center, and capture Varg. If we take him alive, the invasion ends. If we cannot take him alive, we have other options." He touched the small device attached to his chest. It was a nuclear bomb, small enough to fit in a backpack, but powerful enough to destroy the flagship. Jake hoped he would not need to use it. But he was prepared. The shuttle hit the flagship's hull with a tremendous crash. Cutting tools activated automatically, slicing through the alien metal. Within seconds, a hole opened into the ship. Air rushed out, and the humans rushed in. The corridors of the Dominion flagship were dark and strange. The walls pulsed with dim light, like veins carrying blood. The air tasted like metal and death. Jake led his team forward, following the map Lisa had downloaded from captured enemy computers. They met resistance within minutes. A squad of Dominion soldiers appeared around a corner, weapons raised. They were tall and terrifying, with armor that seemed to grow from their bodies and claws that could tear through steel. In any normal battle, they would have been unstoppable. But Jake's soldiers were not normal. They opened fire without hesitation. their bullets tearing through the alien's armor at weak points Emma had identified. When one soldier ran out of ammunition, he pulled a knife and charged into hand-to-hand combat. When another was wounded, he crawled forward and continued shooting until he could not move anymore. The Dominion soldiers fell, all 12 of them, killed by a group half their size. Jake stepped over the bodies without pausing. Keep moving. We have 2 hours before their shields come back up. The battle through the flagship was brutal. Every corridor held enemies. Every room was a death trap. The humans fought with a fury that the aliens could not understand. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. They died standing up, weapons firing until their last breath. After 1 hour, Jake had lost 300 soldiers. Only 200 remained, but they were close now. The command center was just ahead. Mike Reyes led the assault on the final door. His pilots had landed on the ship's surface and fought their way inside to meet Jake's team. They were exhausted, wounded, and running low on ammunition, but they were still fighting. On my count, Mike said. 3, 2, 1. They blew the door open and charged inside. The command center was enormous, a vast chamber filled with screens and control panels. Hundreds of Dominion officers worked at their stations, coordinating the invasion of Earth. At the far end, sitting on a throne made of black metal, was High Commander Vorak. He rose as the humans entered. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in living armor that shifted and flowed like water. His eyes glowed with cold fury. So, Vorak said, his voice echoing through the chamber, the insects have come to their death. Jake stepped forward. His armor was damaged, his face was bloody, and he had a limp from a wound in his leg. But he stood straight and met Vorak's gaze without fear. We came to offer you a choice, Jake said. Surrender now and order your forces to leave Earth, or die here with us. Vorak laughed. The sound was like thunder in the enclosed space. You threaten me? You, who have lost 300 soldiers just to reach this room. You, who are surrounded by my warriors. You think you can kill me? Jake smiled. It was a cold, dangerous smile. I think I do not need to kill you. I just need to die with you. He opened his hand and showed Vorak the trigger device. The nuclear bomb on his chest began to beep softly. The chamber fell silent. Every Dominion officer froze. Vorak's expression changed from amusement to disbelief. You would destroy yourself? Vorak asked. You would kill all your soldiers just to kill me? Yes, Jake said simply. That is what humans do. We have done it before. We dropped nuclear bombs on our own cities to end wars. We have pilots who flew their planes into enemy ships. We have soldiers who held grenades to their chests and hugged their enemies. Self-destruction is not weakness to us. It is a weapon. Vorak did not move. His mind was racing. In 3,000 years of conquest, he had never faced an enemy willing to destroy themselves just to hurt him. Every species valued survival above all. Every species could be broken by threatening their lives. But these humans were different. They had already proven it on the battlefield below. They fought without hope of survival. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. They truly did not care if they lived or died, as long as they took their enemies with them. You are insane, Vorak whispered. No, Jake said. We are human. And you made a mistake when you attacked our home. From the other side of the galaxy, Elder Thera watched the confrontation through a hidden camera. She had placed it years ago, never expecting to use it. Now she watched as the small human stood before the greatest warrior of the Dominion and showed no fear. She remembered Emma Cole's words, "We warned you." In the command center, Vorak and Jake stared at each other. The bomb continued to beep. The human soldiers stood ready, their weapons aimed at every Dominion officer in the room. The aliens knew that if they attacked, the bomb would detonate. Everyone would die. Seconds passed like hours. Finally, Vorak spoke. "What do you want?" "Order your forces to retreat. Leave Earth. Never return. And if I refuse?" Jake's finger moved closer to the trigger. "Then we all die together. Your flagship is destroyed. Your invasion loses its commander. And humanity continues to fight until every last alien is dead or gone. You have seen what we can do. Imagine what we will do when we have nothing left to lose." Vorak thought of the reports from the surface. The endless resistance. The soldiers who fought without uniforms. The civilians who became warriors. The impossible victories against superior forces. He thought of every species he had conquered, and how none of them had been like this. These humans were not brave. They were not honorable. They were not noble. They were survivors. They were the descendants of creatures who had crawled out of the mud and conquered their own planet through sheer determination. They had faced extinction dozens of times and won through pure willpower. They had invented ways to destroy themselves and had not destroyed themselves. They were the most dangerous species Vorak had ever encountered, and they had given him a clear choice: surrender or die. For the first time in 3,000 years, High Commander Vorak of the Dominion considered retreat. The bomb beeped on, counting down to destiny. The silence in the command center stretched for what felt like forever. Jake's finger hovered over the trigger. The bomb beeped steadily, each sound marking another second closer to destruction. Around the room, human soldiers stood ready to die. Dominion officers watched with growing fear. High Commander Vorak stared at the small human before him. In his long life, he had faced armies that numbered in the millions. He had crushed rebellions on 100 worlds. He had never known defeat, but he had also never faced an enemy like this. "You truly would die here," Vorak said slowly. "You would kill yourself and all your soldiers just to take me with you." Jake nodded. "Without hesitation. Why? Your planet is almost conquered. Your forces are nearly destroyed. If you die here, who will protect your people?" "Other humans," Jake answered simply. "We are not like your other victims, Commander. We do not depend on leaders or armies or fleets. Every human is a soldier. Every human will fight. If you kill me, another will take my place. If you kill that one, 10 more will rise. You could destroy this entire planet, and the humans on Mars and the asteroid colonies would come for revenge. You would never have peace." Vorak looked around the room at the human soldiers. They were wounded, exhausted, and covered in the blood of their fallen friends. Yet every single one of them stood ready to continue fighting. Not one showed fear. Not one looked for escape. They had already accepted death. They were just waiting to see if they could take him with them. In that moment, Vorak understood something that changed everything. These humans were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to make a point. They wanted the galaxy to know that Earth was not prey. They wanted every species to see what happened when you threatened humanity. They were willing to die just to send a message. "Contact my fleet," Vorak said quietly. His officers looked at him in shock, but he raised a hand to silence them. "Order all ground forces to return to their ships. We are leaving." The Dominion officers could not believe what they were hearing. In 3,000 years, the Dominion had never retreated. They had never admitted defeat. Vorak was about to break every tradition their civilization held sacred. But Vorak knew that sometimes survival was more important than pride. Jake kept his hand on the trigger. "And you will never return to this system. Earth and its colonies are sovereign territory. Any Dominion ship that enters human space will be destroyed." Vorak's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Agreed. One more thing," Jake said. "The galaxy will know what happened here. You will broadcast this defeat to every world you have conquered. Let them see that the Dominion can be beaten. Let them know there is hope. This demand was too much. Krell, Vorak's second in command, stepped forward. This is madness. We cannot show weakness to the conquered worlds. There will be rebellions everywhere. Jake smiled coldly. That is the idea. For a long moment, Vorak was silent. Then he let out a sound that might have been a laugh. It was bitter and tired, but there was something like respect in his voice. You are not just fighting for your planet, he said. You are trying to destroy our entire empire. We are trying to free it, Jake corrected. Every species deserves to choose their own future. The Dominion has taken that choice away from hundreds of worlds. Today, we give it back. Vorak studied Jake for a long moment. Then he turned to his communication officer. Send the broadcast. All channels. Full galactic coverage. The officer hesitated, looking at Krell for support. But Krell just shook his head in defeat. The order was given, and they had no choice but to obey. Minutes later, a message went out to every corner of the known galaxy. It showed the human soldiers standing in the heart of the Dominion flagship. It showed Vorak giving the order to retreat. It showed the small blue planet called Earth, still fighting after 3 weeks of invasion. And it showed that the unbeatable Dominion had been beaten on 100 conquered worlds. Alien species watched the broadcast with disbelief, then with hope, then with growing determination. The seeds of rebellion, planted by humanity's example, began to grow. The Dominion fleet withdrew from Earth over the next 12 hours. Their ships pulled out of orbit one by one, leaving the planet they had failed to conquer. On the surface, humans watched them go. Some cheered. Some wept. Many simply stood in silence, too tired to feel anything. The war had cost humanity dearly. Cities lay in ruins. Millions had died. The scars would take generations to heal, but Earth was free. 1 month later, Dr. Emma Cole stood before cameras broadcasting to both Earth and the Galactic Network. She had been chosen to deliver humanity's message to the universe. Behind her, the skyline of New York showed both destruction and the beginnings of reconstruction. People of the galaxy, Emma said, I am speaking to you from Earth, a small planet in an ordinary solar system. 1 month ago, the Dominion came to conquer us. They had 3,000 ships and 100,000 soldiers. They had technology far beyond anything we possessed. They expected an easy victory. She paused and let the weight of her words settle. They were wrong. We are humans. We have spent our entire existence struggling to survive. We have faced ice ages, plagues, famines, and wars. We have nearly destroyed ourselves many times. But we are still here, because that is what we do. We survive. We adapt. We overcome. Emma looked directly into the camera. Earth does not seek war. We do not want to conquer anyone. We do not desire power over other species. But we will defend our home against any threat, no matter how powerful. And we will help any world that seeks freedom from oppression. If you come to us in peace, you will find no better friends in the galaxy. We will trade with you, learn from you, and grow together. We will share our knowledge and welcome yours. But if you come with weapons, if you threaten our people or our allies, you will face the same fate as the Dominion. We warned them. We gave them every chance to leave peacefully. They chose war. And they lost. Emma's voice grew stronger. Let this be our message to the galaxy. Humanity is not to be underestimated. We have earned our place among the stars, and we will never be conquered. The broadcast ended. Across known space, billions of beings had watched. Some dismissed the message as empty boasting. Others saw it as a threat, but the wise ones recognized it for what it was, A promise. 10 years passed. Earth rebuilt itself stronger than before. Using technology captured from the Dominion, humanity constructed new ships, new weapons, and new defenses. The solar system became a fortress that no enemy would dare attack. More importantly, Earth became a symbol. Other species, inspired by humanity's example, rose up against the Dominion. The great empire that had lasted 3,000 years began to crumble. Some worlds gained independence through peaceful negotiation. Others had to fight for their freedom. But all of them looked to Earth as proof that resistance was possible. Commander Jake Turner retired from military service after the war. He spent his remaining years teaching at Earth's new military academy, training the next generation of defenders. On his desk sat a piece of metal from Vorak's throne, a reminder of the day humanity had stood against the galaxy and won. One afternoon, a young student asked him a question that Jake had heard many times before. "Sir, during the final confrontation on the flagship, when you held the bomb trigger, were you afraid?" Jake looked at the student for a long moment. Then he turned to gaze out the window at the blue sky of Earth, the planet he had helped save. "Every second," he said finally. "I was terrified. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I wanted to run away more than anything I had ever wanted in my life. Then how did you do it? How did you stand there and face death?" Jake smiled. It was a warm smile now, different from the cold expressions he had worn during the war. "Because fear is human," he said. "Feeling afraid does not make you weak. Running from that fear does. Every human who fought in that war felt fear. We were scared of dying, scared of losing, scared of watching our loved ones suffer. But we faced that fear anyway. We stood up anyway. We fought anyway." He turned back to the student. "That is what it means to be human. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to act despite it. The Dominion expected us to surrender because we were afraid. They did not understand that we have always been afraid. Of the dark, of the unknown, of each other. And we have always overcome that fear through sheer determination." The student nodded slowly, understanding dawning on his young face. "Being human," Jake continued, "is our greatest weapon. Our ability to feel fear and still fight. Our ability to know we might die and still stand. Our ability to look at impossible odds and say, 'Not today.' That is what saved Earth. That is what will keep us safe forever." He looked once more at the piece of metal from Vorak's throne. "We warned them," he said softly. "They should have listened." Outside the window, ships launched into space, carrying humans toward new frontiers. The galaxy had learned to respect the small blue planet and its stubborn, dangerous, beautiful inhabitants. Earth had taken its place among the stars, and humanity would never be underestimated again.